neither, and then we talked about independent dependent yesterday. We don't need to get back into all that. A and AP stats and B and AP stats, are those disjoint?
Yes.
They are disjoint, so you'd have like that. It would look like that, but are they complements? They're not, because you could get a C, you could get a D, you could fail. I mean, hopefully not, but you know what I mean. And either one of these are dependent, because if I tell you you're getting an A, does that give you a clue as to whether or not you're getting a B? Kind of changes the whole thing, doesn't it? So this is dependent and disjoint. So I'll put mutually exclusive so I'm not putting D and D. B and Gym third hour, history third hour, that's like the exact same question as number 2, isn't it? Just like a different context. So there's a whole bunch of other classes that could be in. So it is disjoint, it's not complements. And they are, it's mutually exclusive and dependent. So both of these are kind of that scenario. I'm going to skip number 4 just to keep things calm here. Being taller than 72 and shorter than 65, are those mutually exclusive? Mutually exclusive means there's no overlap. Are those mutually exclusive? Yeah, you can't be taller than 72 and shorter than 65. So they are mutually exclusive. Are they complements? No, because there's that whole range in the middle. You could be, 68 inches. So they're just mutually exclusive. And if it's mutually exclusive, it's dependent. Because if I tell you you're taller than 72, that kind of changes the odds that you're shorter than 65. Being taller than 72 and 72 or less, is that mutually exclusive? No, it doesn't overlap. Taller than 72 and then 72 or less. So there's no overlap. Are they complements? Yeah, because that's the only 2 things that could happen now, right? So that's actually both. And then it's dependent. So this number 7, I think, is probably the hardest one. If you think about like a number line, and I say taller than 72 is over there, shorter than 75 is over here. First of all, are they mutually exclusive? No, because there is overlap, right? So the next question is they're not complements either, so that part is neither. The next part is, are they independent or dependent? Well, if I tell you, so look at all the people that are 75 inches, or shorter than 75 inches. If I tell you that they're 72 inches or taller, does that change the number of people that are still left over that are less than 75 inches? It does, doesn't it? So I just eliminated like all these people. So now you got to be shorter than 75 and taller than 72. So I narrowed the window a little bit. That does change the odds. So that is dependent also. And then eating oatmeal for breakfast and Michigan winning, those are totally unrelated. That's independent. And that's not disjoint. It's not complements because they could definitely happen at the same time. All right, questions on those though? Because I don't want to argue about transgender.
Okay.
I don't want to make anybody upset. Either way. Good. All right. Write down this guy. Is that big enough, people in the back? We're going to do like 3 of these, so if you're trying to figure out where to put it, just keep that in mind. You might want to do it in your notes. This is like the trees, but a lot harder, like a harder version of the trees that we're doing. It was tougher than I thought. Third hour, so we'll see how it goes this hour. This is a really common AP question. So the first two levels we did, we're just introducing you to it, giving you a general idea, and they might be on the AP, but that would be considered one of the easier ones, I think, than put on there. This level of difficulty is the kind they usually go with. It'll be almost on every test. There's at least one question that looks something like this. So the first thing we got to look at is probabilities are changing now. Like the very first problem we did, I flipped a coin, and it was 0.6 heads every single time. So every branch was 0.6, 0.4. Second level we did was that snow day one yesterday, right? Where the first branch was 0.3, 0.7, and then it was 0.2, 0.8, and then they were all 0.1, 0.9, so it kind of changed as we went. Well, in this one, every branch is going to have a different number on it, basically. So they're not really related to each other. So if it does snow, certain chance of an accident. If it doesn't snow, there's a certain chance of an accident. First thing we got to figure out is if it snowed. So I'm going to start my tree with, did it snow or not? So snow, no snow. So it snows 40% of the time. It didn't, which means it didn't snow 60% of the time. But then those two branches kind of put me in two different situations. Well, if it did snow, there's a 25% chance of an accident. If it didn't snow, I'm sorry, I got it backwards. If it snowed, there's a 70% chance of an accident. If it didn't snow, there's a 25%. So everything is, you got to look and see where you are in the chart and make sure you're matching things up correctly. So snow could go to accident or no accident. What number goes up here? 0.7, right? If it snowed, the chance of an accident is 0.7. And then so what has to go here? 0.3, because that had to add up to 1. Questions on where I'm getting those numbers from? Same idea down here. If it didn't snow, there's either going to be an accident or not, but the probabilities are different than they were up here. So it's all based on whether it snowed or not first, and then change the probabilities after that. So if it didn't snow, what's the probability of an accident? 0.25, and then no accident would be 0.75. So if you want to make a little summary of this, you'd have, normally I'd put it next to it, but I don't want to write over the problem, but I'd have the probability of snow and accident. Have you guys seen this before? Do you know that means and? Like the upside down U means and. So snow and accident is what I'm trying to say there. 0.4 times 0.7. So 0.28. Probability of snow and no accident. 0.4 times 0.3. So 0.12. What should these two add up to? It's not 1. Or what do they add up to? 0.4. What does that match up with? It's snowing. Right? So that's all the ways it could snow adds up to 0.4. The probability of snow is 0.4. So that's kind of a check that you're on the right track. If I keep going, no snow and accident. 0.6 times 0.25. 0.15. And then no snow, no accident. 0.6 times 0.75. Which is 0.45, and kind of the same idea. Notice those two add up to 0.6, and that was the chance of no snow. So before I start answering the questions, anything I can help with on how I made the diagram and got those numbers? We good there? Alright, let's say I labeled them. 1, 2, 3, 4. For part A, the probability that there was an accident, which two scenarios do I want to look at? Out of the 1, 2, 3, and 4. So just tell me numbers. 1, 2, 3, and 4, which one? 1 and 3, right? Would be where there's an accident. So I got an accident there, I got an accident there. So I need this to happen or this to happen. What does or mean? Or means add. So 0.28 plus 0.15, 0.43. You don't have to put those numbers there. I'm just doing it so it's easier for us to, like, for you to answer the questions I'm asking. And then probability of no accident. Well, there's no accident in scenarios, what I call scenarios 2 and 4, right? So you need this to happen or this to happen. Or means add. So that's 0.57. And these two add up to 1, which also makes sense because you've either got to have an accident or no accident. So those two should give you 100% when you add them up. It's another way to kind of check that your math and your adding and multiplication is all on the right track. Questions yet? On the last part, so this is the stuff we talked about, started to get a little tougher yesterday. The accident is it, so we're going to go like total possibilities, and then success goes on top. So in this case, success is snow. It's weird. But total possibilities for accidents. So if I want the total possibilities for accidents, I already found that in part A, but it's just adding these two up. We know accident happened, so that goes right on the bottom. That's your 0.43. And then success in this case is, now that I know I'm only looking at 1 and 3, what's the probability of snow? The 0.28. So that goes on top. And then I don't know what you give me divide. I don't care what you give me divide. But do you see where I'm getting the numbers from? Yeah. Oh, that's. Oh yeah, no, that's right. Yeah, go ahead. What? So I want to add up all the probability, all the total possibilities where there was an accident. So I'm adding up that number and that. And then within, now that I know I'm only looking here, which adds up to 0.43, 0.28 of those, it snowed. So that's what I would want on top. Is that okay? Yeah. Other questions? All right, let's go to the next one. And I got to kind of give you a definition here first, too. Alright, so false positive, like we started doing this problem last hour and then people were all confused about these terms. So I want to make sure you know what they are. False positive would be, like you go in and you get tested for a certain disease. Like the last 4 times I've looked back and seen you guys talking, I've let it go. It's got to stop, or I'm going to have to move your seats. I mean, it's like half the time I look back, you're not looking at me, you're looking at each other. So false positive is like you go in, you're like, yeah, I think I have diabetes, whatever. They run the test, they tell you have it, but in actuality you don't. So they screwed it up. So false positive is the test says you have the disease, but you actually don't. The tests aren't perfect. There's errors. They can make errors in both directions. So what's false negative? Test says you don't, but you actually have it. So that makes sense, right? That it can be like wrong in either direction. So this is what I think that'll help. This took us like 15 minutes to get through last hour. And I think just talk about definitions will help. So write this down, and then I want to do this problem. This is like the favorite, the AP's favorite problem. these for you? I'm sorry. You like writing them better? It is. If you're thinking about it, you're just copying. True. You don't have to do it yet. I mean, you can start if you want, but I'm just waiting for people to write, and then I'll go through it, and then we'll do a couple more for you guys to practice. Are people done writing? Not yet? Okay. Take a notebook. Take a notebook. Take a picture of it. Just don't take my desk. So it's the same idea as the snow one. Like, first we have to figure out if it's snowing or not. Here, first we have to figure out if you have the disease or not. Because if you have it, there's a certain probability you'll get a false negative. If you don't have it, there's a different probability that you get a false positive. So first we have to split disease and no disease. So this would be, let's just say yes for disease and no for no disease. So make sure of this too. A lot of people screw this up. What's 0.8% as a decimal? 0.008, right? Not 0.08. So yes here would be 0.008. And then so no would be 1 minus that, so 0.992. So then we'd go, okay, if they have the disease, there's still a certain chance they'll get a positive test or a negative test. If they don't have the disease, there's a different probability that they'll get a positive or negative test. I want you to take a minute and see if you can fill in those 4 numbers. Fill in the, you know what I'm saying, like the ends of those branches. Bless you. Alright, so let's start. Let's just read the first sentence. Disease Y has a 2% probability of a false positive. So a false positive means the test came out positive, but do you actually have the disease? You do not. That's why it's false. The test told you you had it, but you actually don't have it. So where is that? Number 1, 2, 3, or 4? It's 3. It's a positive. So it's got to be one of these two. But it's false. So it's wrong. Positive up here would be correct because you actually do have it. Positive down here is wrong because you don't. So there's a 0.02 there. And then what has to go here? 0.98, because these two have to add up to 1. After I multiply them out, they have to add up to, like, this times this plus this times this. Let's just think. So then, a false negative, 1.5, a false negative is you got a negative, so it's one of these two, which, I mean, at least I can tell which one it is right now, but I was trying to, like, explain it. You got a negative, but it's wrong. So if you got a negative and you don't have the disease, that's correct. That's not false. A false negative is you got a negative, but you actually do have the disease. So like you go around with diabetes, but they told you you don't have it. So that's 0.015, and then that's going to be that'll be 0.985. Questions on where I'm getting those numbers? Like what doesn't make sense? What can I go through again? So do the rest then. Like multiply them all out and try to answer A, B, and C. Yeah. These two? These two. Because that would mean that 100% of the people got a positive test. Because those are both positive tests that you're looking at. But not 100% of people get a positive test. When you multiply, like you're going to do this times this times this, you know, and all those. When you add up all those, you'll get 1. I guess I don't see what's not a common. There's true positives too. Like this is the true positive. So there's 4 things that can happen. The true positive, the false positive, the true negative, the false negative. But that's not what it is. So the positives are just these two. Right. Because not everyone. If they have one, I think everybody got positive. I'm sorry, I'm not trying to like difficult. Yeah, was it true with the last one? You're saying. I thought it was sure like I was going to go. It's not obvious. I apologize for my lack of ability to understand the question.
said just 2 plus it's 1. That's 0.12. Yeah, I was like, point? I just told you the decimal points. This one, no. Just move on. No, move on. We're fine.
At least we're trying.
I know.
Yeah, I want to know if your question does it work in the last one? If you go back and apply your logic to the last one, do you still have the same question?
It doesn't work for the last one.
It's because
But like, I feel like you know that part. You're asking something deeper. So remember, you can check. Like, I screwed this up. I messed up one of these last hour. I added them all up. I didn't get one, and then I was like, okay, I gotta go back. And it's just a way to catch if you make an error. You guys agree with those numbers? It's not quick. Well, we just started. Sorry. Jeez, that's pretty harsh. Positive tests happen in which 2 scenarios? We're not done yet? Okay, I'll wait a second. I didn't mean to. Sorry. So I think it's because you're thinking they should be complements. They should add up to 1. Like one or the other has to happen. But the complement of yes, positive, isn't just no positive. It's all these other possibilities. So it's not just these and this. It's this and like all these have to add up to 1. That's not helpful. Do you want me to just stop now? So I got it something wrong because I'm not getting 1 when I add those up. Yeah. Okay. There it is. Thank you. Now that'll add up to 1. Okay. So how did I get this number? The 0.02772. Which 2 of these did I add up? The 1 and the 3, right? The ones with the positive tests. This I'm adding up with the one with the negative tests, so 2 and 4. And then 3 is the hard one. So remember, this is your given. That goes in the bottom. Basically, whatever you're given goes in the bottom. So testing positive is 0.02772. That's all the ways you could test positive added together. So I can just kind of erase those now. So now out of what's left over, if I just look at disease, what's the probability? I'm sorry. Yeah, so out of these 2, if they just have the disease, that's going to be the 0.00788 number. And then whatever you get when you divide them. But how many had this fraction set up for part C? Okay. Questions on it? What doesn't make sense? I don't understand this. Where did this come from? What's going on here? Anything? Alright, I'm going to rewrite it. That was just to... Is everybody still writing? Did you get caught up? Okay. I'm going to change the phrasing too, so you're not just like plugging different numbers in. This right here is one of the I'm just rewording it so you can't just take the numbers and like stick them in the same spot. You have to actually think about the wording. I did, yeah. It's like a different problem. It's the same type of
Same concept.
same concept. Yes. No, we'll do one more. How many of you want to go into a health field? How many of you think you have some idea of what you want to do? How many have absolutely no idea what they want to do? Me too.
Most of the time, people go to college and they change major.
I changed my major like 6 times.
Yeah, that's a lot of people. But you changed it 6 times?
Yeah.
I refuse.
Well, they're all like similar-ish, but yeah. I started in chemical engineering and worked my way into teaching.
Yeah, so similar.
But it's math. I mean, like I took math and science. Yeah.
Same class. You didn't go from like lawyer to.
I didn't go from like chemical engineering to teaching history. At least it's like,
That's still related.
yeah.
Big group. You want to go into what?
Because why?
It's too new from the major, so I'm starting in exercise science first. Because I know I have my professional.
Right.
You should be a cop.
It's easier to narrow down than like the other way around. Yeah.
Don't you have to do point oh for?
So it's 4% this time, not 24%.
What was it before?
It was 0.8.
This one's just
So you just always move the decimal 2 spots. Yeah, I think you thought that was a decimal was the last one.
I didn't see the percent in the last one, so I did 8% or 0.8. Not 0.0.
You put it in the right spot at least.
Yeah.
You don't get this at all.
Yesterday you like switched where you put the numbers and so like,
Oh, yeah. You mean like the 0.04 and the yes?
yeah, like you put
Yeah.
point from the line.
I know.
You put yes, and I'm like, okay.
I really, like, in my head, I was going to try to be consistent with where I put, like, the yes and the 0.04, but I've sucked at it. It doesn't matter. And I'm always like, oh, I'll do what I did last time, and then I start writing it. I don't know why I can't keep track of it. But it doesn't matter if you put the yes and the 0.04. Like, you can switch those.
That way it's easier.
It doesn't matter to you. Whatever. You have to do it that way.
Because I say point 4. See,
It's
that's
just
what I don't understand.
Writing it different. Same idea.
Because I don't know. So, can you call me? They have the false positive. Yeah, okay. I always mix that up. If it's false positive,
So false positive would be the test says positive, so it's got to be one of
Yeah.
those. But it was false. It was wrong. So if I got a positive up here, it would be correct, wouldn't it?
Oh,
Because
yeah.
I actually do have the
Okay.
disease. You know what I'm saying?
Thank you, Naya. We just. I said that before the start. She said she was 0.
But that doesn't help her understand it. It's just like, that's just like
No,
a trick.
I'm not doing it.
5 is 0.96. Because it has to be. You just said that, like, Nathan, I was about to punch you.
No, maybe it's here.
How many have those four numbers, that like the right hand four numbers in the right spot? These four. So just to talk through them again, these are the two that I wrote on there, and the other two are just like 1 minus. But so this is a false positive. So I got a positive test, but I don't actually have the disease, so it's wrong. My test was wrong. That's the false part of it. This is a false negative because I got a negative, but I actually do have the disease, so the test was wrong. Again, that's the false part of it. What is? Just stop what you're doing. Because I want to know what to practice more. What's harder, setting up that table or doing the A, B, and C after you have the table?
Setting up
The table's the hard part, right? Like, are you all good on the ABC?
Yeah.
So I'd rather practice another table then. Make sense?
Yeah, because after you get the table, you'll.
Once you get the table, it's good.
It's just
Yeah.
plug in.
Okay, all right. So let me just change the wording around again.
The only part is
Sound good, you can do it.
Yeah, definitely. Because then you're like, where do I put it? Yeah. Because I was trying to.
So just set up that table. Don't even worry about the ABC. Or just set up the trio. All I want you to do is set up the tree. Because you're telling me it's easy after that, right? So let's practice the hard part.
The only thing that makes it tricky is the false parts, like the false positive, false negative.
That idea, the false positive, false negative, comes up again in a lot of other stuff we do later on too.
Is that 6% or 0.6?
6, that's like the period of the sentence before. But you just set it up, so it doesn't really matter. You know, if I put 0.6, you put 6. At least you know you got the right spot. Or not, whatever. This might help. If you always put yes, no, the false positive and the false negative will always go like in the same spots. Not where I just put them.
The negative going against section. False positive. So everything else. False negative. False negative is when it says you have it.
That was how we guess.
So going up. False positive. If it just comes back positive.
Your whole thing is fucking up. You said, well, I said.
How many have those 4 numbers?
False negative.
Watch your mouth.
False negative. Yes, you always back. If it comes back with
You're the one that was so angry about the end point.
I tell her false is false.
Oh, thanks. Appreciate it.
So the false
You too.
almost always goes against.
It always says that.
So, if it says false negative negative,
Yes.
so you take false and so you false means
Yes.
false negative means
Yes.
So maybe think about it like an incorrect negative.
I'm just gonna flip it.
What do you mean flip it?
False means
No, don't say false. False negative means yes. False positive. Yeah.
Yeah, don't mix those up.
False. Say that again.
False negative is yes.
So what do you mean by yeah? Oh, false negative goes in the yes
Yeah.
branch.
So negative is the opposite of yes. Because no.
So you do like it's a double negative.
It's a double
Like
negative.
two negatives make a positive type of.
Yes. Okay, that makes sense.
Yeah.
Whatever works for it.
Yeah. Because I'm like, I just, as long as it does that all of the time, I don't like mix it up.
Because if you think of the wording as like it's
Yeah.
negative and positive together.
Yeah.
See what you're doing there.
Have a good day.
You do that, Davis. See ya.
See ya.
Okay, videos.
See ya.
One of the few things where fire actually does damage.
Still precise.